Hey everybody. So, um here we are, weekly Wednesday live Q&A. And today we're going to talk about affordable guitars. I'm going to show you a photo. My guest for today is already there, anxiously waiting. But we're not going to unleash him. We're not going to unleash him just yet. But I'm going to show you a photo. Now look, that's me at the age of, I think, maybe 12 years old. And that's my first electric guitar. Notice the poster on the wall, the number of the beast. But that guitar, it says Williams in the headstock. And my parents bought this guitar to me from some mail order shop. This is long before web shops existed. And, you know, remember those catalogs with all sorts of products, and so that's mail order for the youngsters out there. We didn't have web shops. There used to be a time we didn't have web shops. So yeah, I was maybe 12 years old. So this was in maybe 1984, I think. And this guitar, this Williams Strat copy, it was one piece of shit. I can tell you that much. It got me started, but it was really, really a horrible guitar to play, and it nearly killed my passion to learn, passion to play. And yeah, so that's that guitar. I'm gonna show you another one. That one. This is me a few years later. And anybody recognize the guitar? It's my second guitar. It's an Aria Pro 2 Cardinal Series CS250. You know, I bought it used from a friend. I paid 1,000 Finnish marks for this guitar. That's like, I don't know, 150 euros. I was 15 or 16 when I got it, and that was big money at the time for me. I had to pay it in parts for a long time. And, you know, now this guitar, it was a great guitar. Or, okay, it had some shortcomings. The tuners were bad, and the pickups kind of squealed a bit easily, and the bridge saddles were a bit sharp, so they broke strings. But hey, those little things, like, they were nothing compared to my first guitar. And this Aria Pro 2, it was a smooth guitar to play. You could set the action low, and it inspired me actually to make music. And this was my guitar, my go-to guitar for many years. Yeah, that's about it. I'm gonna take that one down. And are you ready, Mr. Henning? You're online. You're online. Drink your coffee, and while you're drinking your coffee,
hello.
Tell me, Henning, what was your first guitar?
Very first guitar was a nylon string acoustic classical guitar for 199 marks, which would be like about 100 euro now. For the reason of it's easier to play. It's not a big investment if I don't want to play anymore, because kids don't, keep doing things. And easy on the fingers. And then my first electric, I would say 2 months later maybe, was a white Ibanez, I want to say Stratty thing. It definitely had 2 single coils, but it was like a white Ibanez.
Right.
Beginner guitar that we bought used, I think, for maybe, I don't know, 300, 400. I have no idea, actually.
And you were, what age were you at the time when you got
it? Take a guess. When I started playing guitar. I mean, of course, as brilliant as I am.
Yeah,
I probably...
so I'm thinking like 2 years old. 5 at the most.
15.
15, no way.
15.
Okay.
Yeah. I started playing really late.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So.
But then the way I am is like, if I do something,
so you were
then I
15,
do it all the way.
So this is about like 50 years ago, 40 years ago. How old? No, sorry.
It is 30 years.
No,
It
no,
is 30 years ago.
30 years ago. Yeah, because we're about the same age. Yeah, yeah. So figures. So, anyways, so this is what got you going. These guitars. Playing
Yeah, that
guitar.
Ibanez wasn't a lot of fun. It was the kind of guitar that holds you back more than it helps.
Yeah.
Back in the day, the inexpensive guitars were so that something came out and that's all you could expect. So whether that's a single coil or a humbucker, who knows? It was all just a wiry, shrill sound. And even if the guitar had sounded good, the amp was a little, we call them Brüllwürfel, like a scream cube. You know, like one of those little transistor things that you just buy in the package with the guitar. Pretty horrible. And even that then probably cost 150 or something. Right. So in no way anything comparable to what we can buy now and actually make real music with.
Yeah. So okay, so let's start talking about buying cheap guitars and finding good cheap guitars. And it's not an easy job, and so many things can go wrong. But there is one particular aspect that really bugs me about buying a guitar. And actually, this applies not only to buying a cheap guitar, it could be a more expensive guitar. So, just imagine this. I'm at the store. It could be a web store, but it could be actual walk-in store. And imagine there being 10 identical pieces of the same guitar brand, same model, same price on the wall. They're hanging on the wall, and I pick up one of them. And then I try it. I pick another one and another one until I've tried all of them. And now typically, there could be one or two that are pretty nice, pretty sweet to play. And most certainly there could be a couple that have seriously something wrong with them. And everything in between. So this is those, again, same guitar model, same, the variety can be vast. And this is the annoying part. I mean, that's not the annoying part. This is the annoying part that, if I'm savvy enough to judge, I can pick up and buy the nice one, right? But what if I'm not? What if it's my first guitar and I don't know so much? I might end up buying up the lemon, the worst of them. And so
you'd be dependent on the guy in this. You'd be dependent on the guy in the store.
Yeah, I would be
giving you good advice.
Giving me good advice, and maybe some stores give good advice, but I don't know if you have that experience. I have that experience that you get the opposite advice, because when the guy at the store notices that I don't know shit about guitars, he's eager to sell me the crappiest piece of shit so he can get rid of it. Okay, and maybe
or the one with the highest, or the one with the highest margin.
Yeah, one with the highest margin. Or whatever. Or it could be better. It could be better. But anyway, at the end of the day, if I don't get advice from the store, from the person who's selling the guitar, or if I'm these days buying the guitar from a web store and I don't know much about guitars, and the guitar just ships to me, and it's my responsibility as a consumer, as a aspiring guitar player, to become a guitar player, to know and buy the good one. And there's something kind of weird about that, because if I'm in the same situation, except that the product that we're talking about is, say, a television set, is it my responsibility to know that I get a functional TV, that it's been sent to me and it works as it's supposed to work, and it's kind of, it works, when they go drag that carton box from their storage and lift it to my van, I need to check that it works. No, I don't need to do that. And in the guitar store, there's just something that kind of bugs me about this thing, that the responsibility is often kind of pushed to the buyer, that if you don't know, you end up buying, you might end up getting way less than your money's worth. And if you don't have if you're not knowledgeable when you get the guitar and start playing, you still might not kind of figure out that there's something wrong with it. You just kind of start playing, and it might kill your passion to play because you didn't get the you know what I mean.
With the TV, there's certain things it has to work, blah blah blah. But realistically, those are all big companies. They can't really afford to have a product that generally just doesn't work.
Yeah.
And with the TV, usually price goes along with quality and customer service because those companies have been in business a long time. And with the TV, I can go online in the store, check pricing, but I can also check reviews.
Yeah.
And stars on Amazon or whatever.
Yeah.
I could buy it at MediaMarkt, but I can go on Amazon and check the reviews easy.
Yeah.
With the guitar, you can't necessarily find a review for it, an independent review, a good review. But even if you could find me talking about it, that is just my opinion, and maybe it's a flying V, and maybe I really don't like flying Vs, and all of a sudden it doesn't really give you too much. There's so much personal things to an instrument.
Or the dealer sent you a good piece.
Yes, and trust me, I've had my fights with brands telling them that's a no-go. We're not doing that.
Okay.
I want what everyone else gets, because otherwise it's completely pointless to review the guitar.
Yeah.
I've literally had hours of conversations about just that.
Yeah.
And I don't stand for it. I'm not going to do it. But I can tell you things, or a review can tell you things like the tuners work. So if it's a beginner instrument, that's important.
Yeah.
The most important thing on a beginner instrument is the tuners have to be smooth. Actually, they have to be better than on an advanced instrument.
Yeah.
I would say that the tuners on a beginner guitar should be the best tuners on the market, because if you're selling a guitar to someone for a lot of money, that person, they have an ear, they know how a tuner works. If they fight with it a little bit, which they shouldn't, but if they fight with the tuning a little bit, they know that it's wrong and they know how to tune a guitar. I tuned my first guitar, I tuned it for an hour and a half, and then the tuning was still horrible. Because kids don't know how to tune an instrument. They don't know how to, go back a bit. So if in addition to that, the tuning mechanism is crap, it makes it impossible for them to work with the instrument. So for me, beginner instruments have to have good tuners.
Agreed. And you actually already kind of touched the topic, but when you said that, back in the day, cheap guitars were blah, 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 but nowadays things are a bit different. And so what is looking at the big picture, your take on it would be that, really affordable guitars are now better than they used to be?
Way better.
Yeah.
Way better. That has to do with a lot of things. It has. I don't actually know where the Koreas or the Cherry or the Arias came from back in the day. I don't know if that was China. Probably not.
No.
I have no idea. But maybe the demand of the companies producing in those countries have been higher. They demand higher quality. In some cases, and we're going to talk about that, it definitely has to do with how many people are in the chain of distribution, meaning you can offer a better instrument for less money because less people open their hand for how to get it. However, I just reviewed an Ibanez where there's many people in the chain. Ibanez for €179. And I've always condemned the Ibanez Geo line. I always said the Ibanez Geos, buy Ibanez, that's fine, but stay away from the Geos because I've had students, they had these guitars, they're inexpensive, and they were horrible. They weren't, the tuners were literally just crap. I mean, they're bad guitars. They didn't sound like guitars. They looked like them, but they were bad.
Yeah, look-alike guitars.
That new one, it's the GRX40. The video isn't out yet. It had me at hello. It looks good. It's built flawlessly. It plays beautifully in that price range. The single coils sound like single coils. The tone isn't thin. It's tunable. Everything about it is easy to recommend for $179. So how in the world are they doing that?
Yeah,
I have no idea.
Yeah, it's interesting how they are doing that, and that's one of those that's one of those kind of perspectives that sometimes, I've a couple of years ago I made a video about why guitars cost what they cost, and I talked about kind of touched the ethical side of things, and touched the globalization and certain things that are really not easy to tackle, and things get very confusing and very complex. What should be the take on that? Because there is different sides to the globalization that we've lived, and that kind of enables this sort of golden era of all the stuff that we can get now for pretty cheap money. And yeah,
yeah, go ahead. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that you can find factories in Indonesia, Korea, China, where you go and you say, look, I don't want to buy from here because these working conditions aren't good, or maybe the quality isn't good, whatever. I would argue that if you have a line of guitars where the quality is good, that the chances are higher that the workers are being treated better, because if they have workers that produce good quality product, they don't want to lose them. And you lose them if you treat them like shit. So this isn't a job.
I get it, and this is also, it's kind of, it's a bit of a like subtleties, or let's say subjective in the term that to really observe it, you would need to observe. You would need to know. You can't know until you just go there and see and whatever. And so it's a kind of a. And I'm not kind of claiming this or that about these things, how things are with the cheapest guitars, where in the store it's maybe under 200 euros, under $200, and then the links in the chain, and what does the factory get, and what. So things are a bit iffy.
It's this, so people understand what we're talking about, the links in the chain. So if we look at Ibanez, for example, Ibanez has never made guitars. Ibanez is a brand. They design them. They have their artists, but Ibanez doesn't make guitars. So they work with factories in, I would assume for the Geo line, probably China, in Indonesia, and for the Prestige line, the nice ones, in Japan, which is Fujigen, who also make FJN guitars.
Yeah, and to begin with the story of Ibanez, I mean, that's where they were made, in Japan. But Ibanez never had a factory of their own. So this is so they never had. So they've kind of subcontracted.
So Ibanez actually never built guitars.
No,
they always commissioned guitars to be built for them by other factories. So when you get an Ibanez guitar, let's pick a number, €1,000, you get. Wait a second, I gotta turn this off. Come on. Where is it? Yeah. When you get an Ibanez guitar, the factory where it's made, let's say Indonesia, gets X amount of money. And for that X amount of money, the work has been done, the parts have been paid for, the guitar is technically completely paid for. And out of that €1,000, that's not a lot of money. Yeah. And then the company that designed it wants money, which is Ibanez.
Yeah.
So Ibanez adds a certain amount of percentage on top of that. And we have to say, for good reason, because that factory doesn't have a website, it doesn't have artists, it doesn't go to NAMM, it doesn't have any of that overhead that it takes, it doesn't have people running around, There's a lot of stuff that the company does in addition to building the guitars, which they themselves don't do. So Ibanez wants money. And then they sent it to Germany or to the US, where a distributor has the relationships with the stores and gets the guitars into the stores, which Ibanez themselves can't necessarily do because they don't speak the language, they don't know the lay of the land. They don't have the relationships. The relationships are built by a distributor, who in turn does advertising in the country, takes care of the artists in the country. So the distributor, rightfully so, says, I want money for each guitar because I do an important job.
Yeah.
So the distributor then adds money to it, and then it goes to the shop, and the shop says, okay, to factory and Ibanez and distributor, I take that and I add times 1.6%, times 1.6. That's what I want for the guitar.
Yeah.
So they get another 60% on top of it. And on top of that, in Germany, we add 19%. In Finland, 7,000%.
Yeah, 7,000%, exactly.
So you have €1,000.
Yeah.
You have €1,000, and within that €1,000, there's in Germany 200 for the state, and then distributor and Ibanez, and all of a sudden the actual instrument might end up to be, I don't know, $300.
Yeah.
Maybe $400. It doesn't matter, but a percentage of that. So what people have to understand when they buy a brand name instrument, brands meaning big presence online, big artists on stage playing them, which means someone has to drive there sometimes and deliver them a neck or whatever.
Yeah, people, you can watch that video I made 2 years ago about the cost structure of, any size company. It can be a small company, a big company, whatever company. There are costs to cover, and that's the basic line of where you can start calculating that. Okay, what is something cost? Yeah, but So
and people don't understand that they are paying for all of that.
Yeah,
they are paying for the ad in the magazine. They're paying for me making a video. If Ibanez pays me to make a video, it's not Ibanez doesn't pay for it. It's figured into the cost of the guitars.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when I get asked by people, how can it be that Harley Bentons are so cheap? And either are they not crap, or are the people in the factory, is this done on slave labor? What they have to understand is it's technically the same labor that Ibanez hires or some other companies, because it's made in the same factories, but they're going around a lot of the other costs. So there's no brand, there is no distributor. It goes from the factory directly to the shop, which is in this case only Thomann. There's no distributor because it's only Thomann. There's no artists. There's no, now they have a website. But I mean, all this overhead is gone. And all of a sudden, a guitar that for a big brand would have to be €800 can be sold for $250. And it doesn't mean it's a shittier guitar. It just means they cut all the cost.
Yeah.
Now, does it make sense or not? For the consumer, maybe. But for the brand, well, they don't have artists. So how many people know them? What does it do to the perception of the brand? Is it seen as, oh, no one's playing those? So maybe there's a point to all of that.
Yeah. It's kind of, it all depends on the perspective. So now you brought out Harley Benton. So I'm going to continue from, because you've reviewed over the years a lot of cheap guitars, especially Harley Benton guitars.
Mm-hmm.
And what is your relationship with Thomann? Because can we trust you? Maybe you're corrupted. Tell me. Tell us.
Well,
tell us all.
I started the channel by buying 2 Harley Benton pedals and then making videos for them, and people loved the videos. So I called Thomann and said, send me more pedals, I'll make more videos. So Thomann literally started the channel. A purchase at Thomann started the channel, and I owe those people a lot. If I said something about instruments that I didn't mean, there's 2 things preventing me from that. A, I'm not an actor. I can't do that. We've met, we hang out. I can't sit in front of a camera and say, oh, this is so good. Yeah. You would instantly be able to tell. Plus, even if you don't want to believe what I say, just listen. Because if I'm playing and I'm not inspired and I'm fighting with the instrument, you can immediately tell. If I'm sitting there and I'm smiling and I'm having a good time, it's real. Plus, let's say I can't fool you. I'm an amazing actor, and I'm fooling you into buying all these guitars through my links, and I make all the money, and Thomann pays me for it.
Damn you!
Well, if I lied, but if I lied, and you get the guitar you are, and you look at it and you're like, oh, wait a second, this YouTube guy lied to me. He's just a paid shill. you have 30 days to return it.
Yeah.
So why would I lie on something that you can return?
Yeah.
The only thing that's going to happen is you return it and you'll never watch my channel and you tell people Henning is an idiot, he lied about the guitar. Yeah. So there is zero interest for me to lie about something because you can return shit. So if I say something's great when in actuality I think it's shit, many people will return it and it'll kill the channel. And the channel is my livelihood. So I've vowed this to my viewers. I will always be honest. I just had a 2-hour Skype today with the company, and I had to tell them this. They're like, well, if we pay for videos, we want to make sure it's all good. I'm like, well, then I'm the wrong guy for you because I don't do that. Because my viewers come first. I will not trash something. If you send me one of your guitars, there's a 50% chance that it's total crap. I mean, come on, right?
Yeah.
Right. So if you sent me a guitar and I'm getting it and I think, you know what, if I made a video about this, I would have to criticize a lot of things. Then I call you up and say, you know what, let's not make a video. I don't want to trash a product. I don't want to say, this is shit, don't buy it.
Oh, that's why Henning has never reviewed one of my guitars.
But if I find things that I want to critique, because I think personally they could be better.
I can't afford him. Sorry, where were you?
That's not true. But critique is fine. Trashing something doesn't serve anyone. So I have critiqued Harley Benton products. If people say, oh, you just bought by Harley Benton, I always say, well, watch my attenuator video, watch this. I absolutely do point out the flaws. I do point out things that I don't like. I just reviewed the Fusion T, the Tele version with the 2 humbuckers. Look, for the money, they're still good guitars. If you bought guitars in that price range from other brands, you wouldn't get anything better. Did they blow me away? No. The sounds were a little bit thin. I said in the video, with these, I would change the pickups because the sounds are not mind-blowing. Is it still kind of cool that for $399 you can get a roasted maple neck guitar? Yeah, no one else will give you that. Yeah. So if people don't trust me, don't watch because then the video is pointless. Yeah. And I'm going to be honest. That company we talked about where you just said, well, how do you know that they're not sending you something that I get something better than the customer? Yeah. I fought with them. I bitched about it. I said, I'm sorry, but if you're sending me stuff that's QC'd and put away as this is for review and this is for customers, I'm out. I'm not doing it.
Okay.
I'm breaking any
Fair enough.
Harley Benton.
Fair enough. People, you can vote. You can vote in the chat if you believe this man or not. Because we're now moving on. Because you brought up one thing here that kind of caught my ear. And because it's things can be one way when you're buying a guitar, when you're buying a new guitar. But then time happens and the seasons happen and all these things happen and what I've repaired guitars since 1991 or 2. I've been repairing guitars professionally since 1995. I've seen a fair bit of what's going on with different kinds of guitars and this is not, unfortunately, it's not the case. I mean, we could hear more talk about mass-produced guitars and other types of guitars that are made in a different way, with much more time, which much slower process. Because one time I talked years and years and years ago with Ibanez, the factory manager at the Frankfurt Music Messe. He was there looking at my guitars and he gave me his business card and we just had a talk about different ways of making guitars. And he explained to me that at the Ibanez factory, because I asked him that what is the time that when the process starts for a guitar, how much time does it get until it's kind of ready from the other end of the line? And he said something about some hours. Maybe it was 3 hours. Maybe it was 2.5 hours, something like that. That when the process starts, after 2.5 hours, the guitar is ready.
Okay.
On that line, and this is something that not all factories or not all factories are as effective or as wherever. I can't remember from which factory. I mean, obviously this wasn't an Ibanez factory, but it was somebody making for Ibanez, because that's what we're talking about. Mm-hmm. So anyways, factories have different ways of making things, but when you're mass producing things, the pace of making the guitar is pretty quick. So you're sawing it, you're planing it, and bam bam bam, and the guitar is done. And in when the guitars are made like this, and the wood materials are dried fast and whatnot, there's often problems that you don't notice them when the guitar is new, but you notice them after 6 months or 1 year or whatever. And this is the most typical situation, that you buy a guitar, you're very happy with it, or maybe like somewhat happy with it, but after a few months you're not anymore. And then you take it to the repair shop, and the repair shop tells you that the neck is twisted and there's nothing I can do. Okay, we can refret, we can take off the frets, we can, but then it's going to cost like 3 times as what you paid for the guitar. Mm-hmm. So then it's thrown to the Pacific Ocean or wherever you put those guitars. I don't know where you put all that stuff, But so this is one thing that when you're reviewing guitars, when you're reviewing new guitars, what kind of experience do you have in this regard? How the guitars age, and do they? When you have these, like, let's say 100 new Harley Benton guitars, after 1 year, are they still in use? How big percentage of them is already in trash? Or what happens to those guitars? I mean, because I don't understand.
Okay, a couple of things on that. Obviously, when I review a guitar, all the guitars I review, I just got.
Yeah, sure. So I know you don't. You don't have a crystal. You mean you don't have a crystal ball, Henning? I can sell you one. They are very expensive, but I can sell you one of my crystal balls.
I'll buy that. Put some snake oil in that box too. I'll buy that as well. Here's something I just realized lately. When we're talking about how do guitars age and deal with humidity and all that stuff, I was amazed about some guitars where you wouldn't expect that. 1 or 2 Music Mans for $3,000.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at all. So keep them coming.
On the Music Mans, they're still fine, but the frets just pop out a little bit on the edge, so that I kind of would feel like, they kind of need to be, sanded off a bit.
Yeah.
I have a McMull Telly, and I mean, McMull guitars are among the finest guitars out there, but on that McMull Telly, the wood is, 70 years old, beautiful, but apparently something in Germany with the humidity isn't the same as the humidity in Israel, because that Telly, is the neck is bent so much that the truss rod can't actually is all the way loose or something like that. And also the frets pop out a little bit. Now that's a guitar for $4,500. Where I kind of feel like, that should go back in the factory and get fixed.
It should be. It should go. Definitely should go. Don't leave it without, send it back, because they need to know.
I've talked to Amit and Tal, they're great guys, and they immediately said, "Oh, look, if something's wrong with that, we're gonna have to fix that because we don't want to stand for that quality." Exactly, well, that wouldn't happen with the Harley Benton because they pride themselves in amazing instrument. And look, you don't have a crystal ball. You don't know what the wood will do. You can only hope that your experience tells you something. I have a beautiful Borumen, which is an amazing boutique guitar, and the truss rod's loose inside the amazing neck and the amazing fretboard. When you play it, you can hear the truss rod rattle. There's literally nothing you can do other than take the fretboard off, fix it up. But the problem is that guitar would have to go back to Texas.
Yeah.
And that would cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
So my point is, we're talking about some high-end guitars. Music Mans are great guitars. These are boutique-built guitars. This shit can happen with anything.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree it can happen, and not I can't say anything about a particular whatever boutique guitar or expensive instrument or whatever maker or anything like that. I can just say in general that it is way, way, way easier to build a bad guitar than a great guitar that doesn't have problems. It's really much easier to build a guitar that is not perfect. And that's one thing, but this is not the topic. I mean, we're not here today we're not kind of going into the debate about whether you made a great video. I think it was called, what was it called? It was called do you need expensive gear? And you compared there this like the cheapest of the cheap
yeah,
you know, signal chain, starting with the guitar, cable, amplifier, whatever, and you recorded a track, and then you had this other high end, I think you called it like ridiculously priced package or whatever you call it, something like that. And you know, we're not right now, so let's not go down that rabbit hole comparing the pros and cons of the high-end guitars and cheap guitars. People, you have to watch that video by Henning. I'm gonna put the link to the chat so you can don't watch it now because you want to watch this video now. But I'm gonna put it here so people there you have it.
This video isn't about this. It's but I think what we're getting at is consistency, which if I get something from you, for example, you handpick the wood, and we would hope that you know how to pick the dried wood and stuff. For example, with Harley Benton's, there is a big discrepancy in terms of weight, for example, and that tells you that some wood's drier, some wood's heavier, some wood's less dry. I just recently weighed. Oh yeah, in that video about the Fusion Ts, one was 3.4 kilo, and the other was 4.
Yeah.
Now, 4 kilo for a T-style guitar is too much. I mean, it was a very heavy guitar. I'm going to grab this here. This baritone.
This is not a Harley Benton advertisement, people. Close your eyes. Don't look at the guitar.
It's well, we're not showing the headstock. This thing is relatively light, and it's a baritone, meaning it has a longer neck, so it technically should weigh more than the standard 6-string. But it didn't. The standard 6-string also weighed, I think, 600 grams more than the baritone. And interestingly, 600 grams more than the 7-string, which had a wider neck and was generally a bigger guitar.
Yeah.
So it shows you that there's a big discrepancy in the wood they use. And the thing is, you spend less money, you can be lucky to get something light. And light, of course, also means probably more dry and stuff like this. And it has different resonant properties. So there's a little bit of luck involved with what did they do at the factory on that day. Who was building that batch of guitars. That guy went on vacation, and next week someone else is doing it. If I buy a guitar from someone like you are, I know I get it from him or his lackeys while he's in the Caribbean. I don't know, something like
that. Yeah, well, we have certain ways of, you know, making our stuff, and we're not going to talk about that now. It's just something that, you know, what kind of the way we think about them is kind of like, you know, the guitars are our babies, and it's like that's why we have these ridiculous warranties for them. So you basically never ever face these problems. But that's one part in the price tag, like everything else that goes into my guitars. The whole very slow process where we kind of do it a certain way, it has a certain cost. Let's not go there because that's whole another topic, whole another video.
Let's go to inexpensive guitars.
You mentioned something that kind of that, okay, there's this variety, and like you said, anything can happen. Like even with more expensive guitars, and I would say that the typical scenario is that this kind of unexpected things with the wood, the bigger the production, the faster the production, the more likely it is that there is something, that the percentage of whatever in time there will be problems. Okay, I cannot talk in behalf of any individual builder, of the high-end builder. I just can't talk about this because I don't know. All I know is that it's easier to make. I mean, it's not a guarantee. The fact that a guitar is handmade by one person is no guarantee of anything, because one man can make a shitty guitar very easily. It's very difficult to make.
And you've done it. You've done it over and over. I mean, we know that.
Oh, you're enjoying this. Okay, so I have a solution for all this. I have a solution for all the discrepancies, all the variety, all this stuff that is going on, and the kind of like how did you say it, that it's part of it is luck, how, you know, and there is one simple solution to all this. You know, my number
Play
one
keyboards.
No that too, or accordions, but my number one piece of advice always, if your budget is tight, buy a used guitar. Buy a secondhand guitar, preferably a guitar more than 5 years old. Better yet, if it's even much older. And I'm not talking about valuable vintage pieces here. I'm talking about guitars that have been 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, but are not the sexiest ones, that have been made, you know, in a different way. You kind of get more value to your money, because you can find bargain deals for old guitars that used to cost much more new. And you know, if especially if that guitar is not the most trendy piece, so you're making a compromise somewhere. But you know, and because the thing is that good guitars, they don't get worse because they're old. You know, good guitars get better, better when they get old. Okay, you might need some service done, or maybe if you're lucky, you find an older piece that has the service has been already done. The frets have been replaced or whatever. So this is, and you get kind of rid of all this guesswork with, if I buy this new guitar, how do I know how it's going to be in the 6 months in the winter in Finland, which is like the super extreme test for any, I mean, any instrument made of wood. It's nearly impossible that something would kind of survive here.
But nobody lives in Finland.
No,
really.
No, that's true. We have penguins, though. You know.
No, you do not.
Some people think we do. So I'm always trying to kind of spread the rumors.
Here's the thing. Yes, the guitar will be played in and all this, but nowadays buying something used might mean you're still buying it online.
Yeah.
And I would be I'm not a used buyer.
Okay.
So I would be afraid with a guitar that they are holding things back. They're not showing everything in the pictures. A guitar is likely going to have dings and dongs.
So it's kind of the kind of situation with the, would you buy a used car from this man?
But I think what we have to ask ourselves, which is going to make your point, is what is that person looking for? Is it a guitar to buy because they want to gig? They want a tool. If you're looking for a tool to play, then my advice to the buyer would be very different than to the guy who likes guitars on the walls, or to the guy who is a brand whore who just has to have the Ibanez, the Fender, the Gibson, the PRS.
You're right. Yeah,
because
you're right.
Because I have to give very different advice to those people than to the people that are looking for a good instrument. Then there are, of course, just the collectors who buy one guitar after another. And a lot of the Harley Benton fans, by the way, I would argue, don't necessarily play a lot. They just like to buy guitars.
Yeah.
And it's an easy fix because you spend 200, $300 and you can buy one almost every month and put them on the wall. And it looks like my room. And it's fun. Do they play a lot? Maybe not. So collectors with not a lot of money, a brand like that allows them to just continuously having fun when the mailman comes. So does it matter to them that the threads might pop out? No, they'll never know because they literally don't play them. Some people do, some don't. If we're talking about someone who's looking for 1 or 2 or 3 instruments, they want a gig, they don't care about dings and dongs. Buy it used. You want a good instrument that's going to survive on stage. The neck is going to be stable because you're throwing it in the car. I think what you said is fully right.
Thank you, Henning.
It's going to get dings anyway. It's going to get messed up anyway. If you want a tool, then buy something used. Or if you want a tool that's good, that's a good guitar, but you don't care about the brand name. And trust me, 80-90% of the people will care about the brand name, which is why Gibson, these horrible people, I'm sorry, and Fender, the nice people, why they make so much money, why they sell instruments, because people look for resale value, which you have with brand name instruments. But if I can turn that off, if I can turn my brand focus off, then buying something from a lesser known brand is a much better idea, because chances are that you're paying for less people in the chain, because maybe lesser known brands have a more direct sale to the store. You're paying for less artists, you're paying for less of that whole overhead.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm saying good night to my son. He doesn't he doesn't want to be in the camera, so I'm gonna leave the camera. Entertain the people. Sing something. Sing a song.
Yeah.
Elias,
my point is, if you guys are looking for something that's just a good instrument, it doesn't have to have the brand label on it. It doesn't have to have the Fender, Gibson, Ibanez label on it, or any other bigger brands. I'm thinking, for example, you wouldn't buy Harley Benton because, it's such a great brand. No, you wouldn't. I'm thinking of Prestige guitars, for example, from Canada, which are really good, kick-ass quality. The people know wood. They sell wood to many other guitar brands. The guitars are made in Indonesia, but then they go to Canada and all the final work gets done in Canada. Bang for the buck. You can buy a Prestige single cut, mahogany, all that stuff for like $1,150, and it's going to kick any 2,500 euro Gibson's ass.
Yeah.
But it's going to say Prestige on it.
Yeah.
So you're buying a lesser known brand. Resale value is, I'm going to say, almost non-existent, because I'm trying to sell one and it's not moving.
But help out Henning and buy his Prestige.
But if you're looking for a kick-ass guitar, that's a kick-ass guitar. Or we're talking about Fujigen, FGN guitars. Bang for the buck, those are kick-ass guitars. Flawlessly built, beautiful instruments, but it doesn't have the big G on it. So if you can turn that off, and all you're looking for is a great instrument that does the job, you can actually spend less money and get more quality, because you're cutting out all that overhead that bigger brands have to pay. If you look at the Fender or Gibson booth at NAMM, that's like $1 million right there, and you're paying for that.
Of course,
you're paying for that booth.
Of course, I get these questions also sometimes, about my guitars, about the costs and the how can it be so, somebody is like wondering that, let's take one of my kind of upper price range guitars that could be like 10,000 whatever. So somebody asked that, kind of wonders that, okay, that I must be rich because I get I just got 10,000 for one guitar, and I'm thinking that, okay, so, and then we make these only very, very limited amount, and then we have these mortgages, and we have these insurances, and we have the marketing costs, and we have the shows, and we have all these things, and the people that are working here, we're 5 people, so.
And don't forget about your coke habit. It all goes up your nose. I mean, you are love drugs.
That. You just love that. You just love to do that, don't you? To people, to honest, innocent people, you're talking like that. Okay, so I'm gonna bring in one more perspective. So we're gonna look at yet from another perspective, because I'm saying, and I agree that the stuff you said about that, used guitar is the best choice with tight budget. Is best choice for a player who looks for a decent, good instrument and doesn't care so much about, and wants to play guitar, wants to be as part of the guitar. So buy a used guitar if you're on tight budget. And there are other reasons to buy guitars, like you want to fill your walls with stuff. That's one reason to buy guitars. There are other reasons, and I'm probably the one of the reasons I'm kind of leaning towards always thinking, what's the right way, because I'm a very pragmatic person. I'm a very practical person in my choices. It shows throughout my career in what I've been making and what I've been doing. The choices I'm making with wood, with parts, with whatever, it's very often practical stuff that just works. That's what I care for. I care for things that work and don't let me down, that it's reliable. That's what kind of Finnish people are about. We don't lie like you German people do, your ears and mouth full of lying to innocent people like us. But in Finland it's all different. But so I'm gonna just mention I'm gonna mention one more perspective to this, that you're gonna trash this one down too. But anyway, I'm gonna say it because one more reason to buy a used guitar is sustainability. Because in the old times, even a lot of the more affordable stuff, I'm not talking about the really bad stuff, but there was you didn't see that picture of my Aria Pro 2 guitar. That guitar is actually, it's made in Japan, in the legendary
Matsu. I saw it. I did see it.
Yeah, you saw it. Okay. So it was made at the legendary Matsumoku factory. That is it ceased production in, I think, 1987 or whatever. They stopped producing anything, but they were producing for a lot of companies. And these guitars are among those used guitars that you don't need to pay very much for them. You pay, like nowadays, a guitar made in 1980 to 1982, 1983, these Aria Pro guitars, or there are other brands that this company was making, or the Fender Japan guitars, or the early Squiers. And nowadays, however, if you want to buy something that lasts for a lifetime, a product that doesn't kind of expire or whatever, you need to be prepared to pay for it. And for example, I don't know why I came to think of it, but a handmade guitar from a reputable builder, anyone, not necessarily us, but somebody who's reputable, check always. By the way, when you're buying a guitar from a boutique, from a high-end brand, always check the background. Check for references. Ask references from the builder. Who has bought your guitars? Give me emails. Give me email addresses or something so I can check you out. If you don't find anything, red lights, ding, 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 don't, aware, alarm. Don't necessarily first thing send your money to that guy. You need to check the background. There are a lot of problematic,
I would say with a high-end builder, the best way to find out if it's someone you should invest in is go and see if you can find them used.
Yeah, that's a good way.
Because the only reason someone would sell a guitar that they bought from Juha or Nick Huber or Tone Fuchs is this is a guitar that they saved up money for. This is one of the dream instruments that the only reason they would sell it is if they're in financial trouble, not because, I don't like it anymore, which is literally why try to find Nick Huber guitars used. Very, very rarely. And I would assume with your guitars the same way. Yeah. If you invest in something like this and it's a product that you've dreamed of and it does do the job that you've dreamed of, you will probably not find a lot of them used.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on. So look, so if you want to buy a product that will last from father to son, or from father's father to son, father's father's father, whatever, Um,
The Faja, Faja, Faja.
Have you seen the movie? Yes,
Yeah, yeah,
Monty
yeah, yeah.
Python's. Yes. So anyway, but you know, you need to be prepared to pay for that these days. But if you are on tight budget, it is more sustainable to buy used. The world is drowning to cheap stuff with a too short lifespan. And instead of buying that new cheapo that will end up thrown into the Pacific Ocean, better for our planet and our environment to buy a used cheapo that has stood the test of time. If you're looking for that, go to guitar that you're going to actually play and you're going to have fun making music with. That's the way I think of it.
I'm and I don't know why I'm pretty averse to buying used. And it has, I don't know why that is. It's pretty stupid. I mean, if I had I actually for Gear Street, I bought a lot of the high-end cameras used, and they were, like new, and I made a kick-ass deal on them. I bought some lenses used. They were totally fine. But I think with guitars, I'm branded by Guitar Center, because when you walk into a Guitar Center, they have all these used instruments, and a lot of them are in bad condition. And then Guitar Center, of course, asks ridiculous prices for them. So also, again, used, if you go and you inspect it and you buy it from someone directly, even get their story.
This is the way I'm thinking of always buying a used guitar. I find it very difficult to buy guitars without trying them personally, which is kind of a paradox, because most of our guitars are in fact bought. People buy them all over the world, and they don't necessarily try them before they buy them. So it's kind of a paradox to me, because for me personally, I would find it, and that's maybe why I'm so kind of paranoid, and I lose my sleep whenever I'm sending guitars, and until the guitar reaches the customer's hands and I get the okay from him, I don't sleep. It's horrible. Help.
I'm expecting a custom built guitar from England, hopefully tomorrow or the day after, and I hope it makes it here. For used guitars, if you're saying you are on a tight budget, that's actually even more of a reason to buy a used guitar, and not because it's more affordable, but because you're losing less money.
Yeah.
So let's say you're on a tight budget.
Yeah.
You don't make a lot of money. There could be a time, and we're talking about a time right now where people might be in a situation like this, where you have to sell it again. Now, if you buy a guitar used, it already has lost a lot of its value. So you're buying it for $800, but when you're selling it, you could probably even sell it for $800 again, because it's not going to be more used.
Yeah.
If you're buying it from 1992 and you spend $800 on it, if you sell it 3 years from now, you know what? It's probably still going to be $800. So chances are you're going to lose less money on it. And if you're buying it because you're on a budget, the resale value of a used guitar will always be much higher than something you buy new and then sell again.
Yeah. So it makes sense in many ways. And one more kind of a tip, because I've been often surprisingly often in the situation where somebody, maybe a family member or a good friend asks for help. Typically a situation could be that it's a friend who is intrigued of learning to play guitar, but doesn't want to invest a whole lot of money to it because he's kind of not sure if it's going to turn out. And so that friend might ask my help. That, could I help? What should I buy? What could I buy? And so one good piece of advice would be that, if you're not knowledgeable, if you're looking for a guitar on tight budget, and if you're not knowledgeable about these things, it's a good idea to try to find someone who knows and ask for help, and go to the store, or go, if you can, look together some used guitars, whatever it is that you're looking for. Spend some time with somebody who knows. So you can, for example, call Henning if you don't have anybody else. You can call Henning,
And people do. I get messages on Facebook and all the social medias or in comments every day. Should I buy this? Should I buy this? I don't answer if the video answers the question, but if people tell me, look, I'm beginner, I like this kind of music, what should I buy? They ask me what Harley Benton should I buy. Sometimes I'm like, look, if you're willing to spend this much money, buy something else. I try to advise. Obviously, at some point, I can't handle it because it's just, I have 116,000 subscribers. But if I can help, I try to help as much as I can. So yeah, getting advice from someone who knows is a good idea.
Maybe there could be like a profession like that. I don't know. Maybe it exists already. Like some kind of cheap guitar consultant who could help you. I don't know if it exists. Does it exist?
Actually, in a way, Phil McKnight from Know Your Gear.
Yeah,
that's kind of what he does, because Phil does 3 videos a week, but you actually have an email where you can write questions, and it's him and I think 1 or 2 other people who just answer questions all day long. And if they don't know the answer, Phil and his team will go and call the company, and they will find out the answer to your question. So his channel is kind of only a thing he does on the side. He literally is a question helpline for guitar issues.
Yeah.
So no idea how he turns that into money, but that's what he does. Here's a question for you, Juha.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you agree with me. A very good idea, if you have a little bit more money, is actually trying to buy boutique guitars from someone like Juha, Tone Folks, whatever, the high-end brands, because I think that the price drop is tremendous in your instruments. Is that true?
Price drop?
Because everyone says the resale value.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I buy a guitar from you for $5,000, I will guarantee you as soon as I walk out with it, I can't get 5 for it. I probably can't get 4 for it. I probably can't get 3.5 for it. The reason being, someone who has that much money, they don't want to buy the one that you built for me. They're going to come to you and they want you do custom stuff. So they will want their own Ruokangas guitar. They will want their own.
Okay, I understand that. Yeah, this is correct, and it's something that sometimes somebody comes to me and let's say somebody comes to me loaded and wants to buy a guitar and asks me about the investment value of that instrument. And I'm telling that guy that, look, if you're ready to wait for about 50 years, and I don't have a crystal ball how my career plays out, but after I have passed away, I hope it doesn't happen anytime soon, but after the artist, in this case, the maker, has passed away, then we will find out how the investment value of these microscopic small brand instruments will develop. Some brands who have been lucky, maybe, or usually it's like the more they worked, the luckier they've also gotten. I don't know why it kind of seems to be kind of in connection, but I do know why it's in connection. I mean, working hard gives you that status, and in the end, some brands or some makers, the investment value turns out to be tremendously awesome over long period of time. But for my guitars, you can't really. When you walk out with that new guitar, yes, it's going to lose its value in the similar way as a car. It's a new car, maybe.
I think if people want to invest in guitars as an investment and hope they get their money back at some point, then absolutely, I would say Fender Custom Shop, Gibson Custom Shop, all that stuff, the one that's only been built this year and not next year, those will very likely hold their value. But I wouldn't buy a guitar from you because of investment. I think that's the wrong way to go about it. It'll be something that I've always dreamed of. It'll be getting my hands finally on one of your instruments. It's to experience the sound and use it. However, if someone wants to get amazing guitars for quite a bit, I would say quite a bit less money, then I would try to find a used one of your guitars or Nikubo or any of these brands,
and this
because
is
I think
absolutely, and
because I think you can probably get an insane guitar for like, I don't know, $3,000 that usually was 5 or 6.
Absolutely, and this is also something that I'm always trying to help out people with, that if someone is looking for, and I know that there's somewhere available, or I try to connect these dots and I try to bring people together, and I'm of course I'm in support of this, trying to kind of help out people. I know there are players who would like to get one of my guitars but cannot buy it from me because of the cost, and it's a pity, but what can you do? Then the option is that you find one used. Okay, so anyways, we're running out of time, but as a practical me who I am, I feel that a guitar you play, it should be good enough instrument that it keeps you playing. You know what I mean? Like, if it's not the most inspirational, not the best sounding ever, okay, it still should be playable. And sometimes there's this kind of let me try to phrase my thoughts here. There's this kind of cheap sunglasses phenomenon with cheap guitars. Kind of like, it's cheap, it's easy to buy. Like you said, it's easy to buy, your walls full of them because you don't lose much money. It's like a couple of hundreds, 300 bucks. Yeah. So so you don't need to care for it that much either, because it didn't cost much. It doesn't have much value. You don't respect it that much. And there is something that is kind of for a person like me, because I'm honest person, so that it kind of, I'm honest to a fault in a way, and sometimes it kind of hurts my business, but I can't, like, so we're soulmates. You see, we're both the same. We can't. So and there's something not right, I feel, about this, of not respecting the instrument you have, even if it's the cheap instrument, because for me the guitar is like a friend. I mean, if you want to take a good care of that friend. And that, like, for me, again, I'm going back to that. You see, I'm traumatized because I've sold my Aria Pro 2. But anyway, the monetary value wasn't much, but it was a very valuable instrument to me for many years. It was kind of like the highlight of my late teenage years to the early adulthood years, where we had the bands going on, and the kind of peaking my career as a guitarist. And I played with that guitar those years. And I was always taking very good care of that instrument. And even though it cost me only 1,000 Finnish marks, about 150, 200 euros, at the time when I purchased it, it was at the very top. I mean, I had to work a lot and pay it in parts to get that instrument. And,
there's a lot of value to it that's not money value.
Yeah,
it means something to you.
Yeah. And that's something that kind of, for me, one piece of advice would be, it's kind of a psychological thing that, if you're on a tight budget, try to aim as the very limit you can, get as possibly, as good instrument as you possibly can. Even if it's kind of, you almost can afford it, buy the better one. No, don't buy the cheapest one. Buy the better one, because there's that psychological effect. You've paid more for it. Like, I paid a lot of money for my Oakley sunglasses, and that's the only pair of sunglasses I've never lost, because it cost me so much money. If I buy 10 pairs of cheap sunglasses, I keep losing them because I don't care for them. You know what I mean? I mean, there's that,
I know what you
kind
mean.
of psychological thing for it. That you pay for it, you're gonna respect it. You're gonna
you lose picks all day long, up until the point where you buy a pick that's $15 for one pick, and you know where that pick is.
Exactly. And so this is another piece of advice for you guys, that try to think of this psychology of things, that you kind of cheap things, or things that are for free. Typically, there's no respect. There's no value to it because it was for free. So you kind of just let go of it.
And for me, an important message for the viewers out there is, Never ever let the guitar you can afford hold you back from making music you want to do, because you tell yourself, oh, I can only record this album when I have this guitar or this
Yeah.
amp. Um, you're looking at a room with some of the most boutique gear out there. Okay,
Yeah.
I have guitars worth $8,000 and most amazing amps. If I tell you what I recorded my albums with when I was in California with James LeBrie on it and some really high class people, worldwide releases, the guitar that's on a lot of it, well, the 7 string was a limited from ESP, not even ESP, like a limited 7 string that I bought for $400. And one of the guitars was a $240 PV
Mm-hmm.
Predator HSS modern Strat that I actually didn't buy. A rabbi bought it for me.
Okay.
I was at Guitar Center. I didn't have any money, and I was playing that guitar, and I had fun with it. I'm like, oh, used, cool guitar. And then I saw that there was a man that tried to buy a guitar, and he was getting help from one of the Guitar Center employees. But I kind of felt like what he was telling him wasn't right. He was trying to play Beatlesy stuff, and the guy was trying to sell him a road-worn Strat. I'm like, I don't think you need that. I actually think you need something else. So we started talking, and I convinced him to buy one of those Artcore Ibanez hollow bodies,
Okay.
which made a lot more sense for what he wanted to play. And it was way cheaper than what he wanted to spend. And he said, you sounded really good on that guitar you played there earlier. I'm like, yeah, really cool, but I don't have $250. He's like, you know what? I buy it for you. And that rabbi bought me that guitar. And
Let's send
it's
best regards to that rabbi. You did a
yep,
good deed, mister.
it's a
Yes.
kick-ass instrument, and it actually ended up on many albums which I recorded with that guitar and a Pod 2. So
Yeah.
a Line 6 pod and a 250-euro guitar. And you know what? There are hundreds of reviews all over the world of these albums, and not a single one of these reviews ever said, but you know what? The guitar sound was crap.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not even remotely. So
People.
don't get held
Yeah.
back by the gear.
Exactly. And
You can always make music.
and to dig deeper into this part of the topic, which I wholeheartedly agree on, by the way, you need to watch that Henning's video that I linked on the chat, because that kind of that proves a point that I like that video a lot, because that video, to me, it was exactly proving a point that you already mentioned, but I'm going to repeat because I think it's the most important lesson for anyone out of this live stream that we've been now doing here, is that at the end of the day, it's about making music. It's about the passion for playing, passion for music. And it's not a cool excuse to not make music that you can't afford a certain piece of gear. It's not a cool excuse. I mean,
Yep.
you can make music, and the thing is that it is, the fact that if a musical instrument is an inspiration to you, if it's your favorite, most wonderful, expensive guitar, or whatever your favorite number one guitar, or if you take some other guitar that is not so favorite and you play the same track with those two guitars, the listeners are not going to hear the difference too much, because most
Nope.
of the information about judging a guitar, whether a guitar is exceptionally godlike or awesome or great or good or decent or even bad, most of that judgment happens between the player who holds the instrument and the instrument. That's where it happens. That's where you do this judgment. But the viewers, the listeners, they wouldn't notice, And there's all these legends about these top cats, the players like Jeff Beck, that he could go into a studio and pick up any piece of shit, plug it in, and sound like Jeff Beck, untuned.
Yeah, I
And he
totally
could say,
believe
yeah.
that.
So I mean, this
Yeah.
is the thing, because, and I've experienced the same thing. A story about, like, very very short. We're kind of over time here. Well, it's live stream. Why not? We can just continue it the whole night, all night long. Rock and roll all night long. So, but a story about a customer a professional musician here in Finland, who likes to experiment with different kinds of wirings, electronics, pickups. He likes to play around with that stuff a lot. and he has a few guitars from us, and he's played. Everybody in Finland have heard him. I'm gonna mention, okay, Pantse Syrjä, Eppu Normali. Okay, you haven't heard it, Henning, this band, but it's the best-selling Finnish song rock band in Finland all time. Okay. And they're the guy who makes a lot of their music, composes a lot of their music, their lead guitarist. He has a particular sound, and his kind of choices in gear are followed quite carefully in Finland by other pros. So he's one of these guitarists who, and at the same time, he's this genius guy who kind of hears music often as wiring diagrams or whatever, and he knows what's going on. He knows exactly what's going on when there's so many milliamperes running this way and this frequency going that way, and and he can, in his head, he can transform it into sound. And so anyway, he likes to experiment with stuff, and we made several guitars to him. And the last piece we made for him, it had this really weird wiring in it that it kind of appeared like an airplane cockpit with lots of buttons and knobs and and okay, he comes in and we're kind of confused because we don't know how it's supposed to sound. We don't know even if we wire it right. We got the wiring schematics from him, and so we don't know how it's supposed to be. And I call him up. You need to come here. We need to double check that all is right. So he plugs in the guitar and starts playing, and I'm listening. Okay, this sounds the same as he has always sounded like. What's going on? Why does he want this all these things in the guitar? Because now he sounds again like him. So that was my point.
Well, it's fun.
Yeah, it's fun. But it's like, yeah, and it's great, of course. And I get it, and I do get it, and I love it that he's all the time antennas up. Trying to find new ways.
It would be horrible. Yeah. It would be horrible if I sounded not like me on a different guitar. As a last thing, I showed you this earlier. People would, I have comments where people are saying, oh, you're just this trust fund boy and with all your expensive stuff. About just making music. I just uploaded on Facebook. You can go to my Facebook HP page, but it's also going to be on my channel. I did my own version of the 6 Feet Apart song that's now a contest on my channel, all acoustic. And I don't own any super expensive acoustic guitars. I could if I called up Martin, Taylor, Yamaha. I know they would send me guitars to review and all this. Most of my acoustics, one of my favorite acoustics is a Stanford. It's a small orchestra model that's about $800, which isn't super expensive. And literally the guitar that I would pick up if I wanted to just do normal acoustic stuff for the longest time on my albums, actually recorded in California, was a $260 Takamine.
Yeah.
Like literally one of the cheapest guitars from them you can buy, with a mic in front of it that's $120. And I had professional guitar players call me up and say, how did you get that sound? It's all doable. The one I use now is this. It's a...
It's Harley Benton guitar. Okay, so he's advertising again. Don't look. Close your eyes. Close your eyes, people. Right now.
But the reason, shut your trap. The reason I got to keep this is because I put this in a in a Thomann gig bag.
I am not affiliated with Thomann at all, in any way.
I am. And my mom threw the gig bag off the balcony to see if the guitar would survive, and she threw it badly, and it landed on the edge. And it survived, but it has it's cracked right there. Yeah. And I just taped that.
You taped it.
So the guitar's working, but so I got to keep this. And literally, if I now record something acoustically, this is what I use. Could I use anything else? Yes. Could I afford a better guitar? Yes. Could I get one for free from companies if I just made a video? Yes. What am I using? I'm using this because it does the job. And there's never any reason not to make music.
Yeah.
And listen to the track I recorded with it. It's beautiful. It's all in your hands. Just like you're saying, Jeff Beck can pick up whatever. I made albums with the guitar for 250. If I record stuff now, I love how it sounds. I personally think I can do better sound-wise. How much does it matter musically? It doesn't.
Yeah, a lot of the legendary recordings that we all love to listen to. Check out those the gear that they used back in the day, back in the 70s, 80s. You know, you'll be surprised.
We have much better gear now.
Yeah, and
we have much better gear now.
In many ways, we are living really the golden age, the golden era of you know, we're being pampered in so many ways. Sometimes I feel, you know, remembering my trauma with my very first guitar that was really crappy guitar. You know, I'm happy that nowadays cheap guitars are better, but sometimes I get this feeling that there's this, you know, this paradox of choice that I don't enjoy very much. You know, that there's so much stuff, there's so many different kinds of strawberry marmalades that I go to the shop and I look at the ales and I turn away and go away and don't buy any of them because the strawberry jams, there's so many that I just get paralyzed and I walk away. Same with
it's a little bit information.
Same with buying jeans.
It's a little bit of information overkill. But in terms of, I would say this when it comes to guitar gear, with a budget of €1,000 for the whole rig, you can absolutely buy a rig that will do the job. You can play a gig that'll make you happy. If you just want to record something, you don't even need that much. You can buy a decent guitar that will do the job, probably for $500, either used or from a, you know, from a brand new. And there's actually software for free out there. I just recorded something for Glenn Fricker with some amp modeler that was free to download. And I recorded a track that I previously had recorded the week earlier with a €1,200 Ibanez and an Engel and who knows what else was in the chain. And I actually liked it better with that free plugin. So, or for that contest that I have for 6 Feet Apart, I have to send you this, I have to send you a link. It's ridiculous. Many people have sent in things. I got a kid from India sending me his version. This kid cannot be older than 14 at the most. Sitting on a couch, clearly in some India, I don't want to say slum, but the kid doesn't have money. He's playing a $150 Yamaha Pacifica 112, like one of the beginner guitars. This thing is not expensive. And I know that I would be fighting with that a little bit. Could I get a kick-ass tone out of that? I don't know. I would say no. This kid recorded the whole track with it. Beautiful guitar parts. And then there's a solo in the middle. My jaw drops. I just played that for Jen Majura on Friday. Jen said, oh my God, the whole construction of the solo, beautiful arc, amazing techniques from hybrid picking to sweep picking to the tone that he gets is ridiculous. The kid sits in India with a guitar under €200 and makes music that I honestly couldn't record here with everything I have. So if anyone tells me you need high-end gear to make music, watch that kid.
Yeah, I agree. I want to see that. I want to see that piece of video.
Yeah.
Yeah. So send me the link.
I'll send you the link.
Yeah. Okay, people, we're gonna quit now. I'm noticing that there's tons of comments here, and we've touched a lot of these topics and there's been some questions that we haven't answered. We'll go through them. Henning will go through the chat later, and no, maybe I'll go through that.
I can tell you what Harley Benton model that is. I think if it says it anywhere, no, it doesn't. I think it's here, CLD 41S.
Okay, the advertisement continues, but now it's out because I'm muting this guy.
Use one of my links on my channel. Please use one of my links so I get my percentage for the CLD
Jesus Christ! Stop it.
WN from Toman, Harley Benton. Use one of my links. I actually have a review for this model.
I'm gonna mute you
channel
this very minute if you don't stop. Okay, people, it's about making music. It's been really a pleasure, Henning. I was part of the 42 Gear Street event, as you can see from its T-shirt. I was there, and that's when we got to know each other better. And I can reveal it to now to the viewers that honestly I wouldn't have asked Henning to this live stream if I wouldn't think that he's an honest, decent man, regardless of his preposterous comments from time to time. But
and I'm going to be honest with you, I wouldn't have said yes to this live stream if I didn't think that at one time in my future, you're going to build me a guitar.
Well, there you go. We'll talk about that later.
There you go.
So people, have fun, make music, and
yes,
let's have fun with guitars. Let's check out the outro. It's gonna be fit to this last comment perfectly well. So hey, ciao. Until next time.
Ciao.
Take care.
Bye everyone. Thanks for watching.